Good evening, I'm Saraya Mia and you're watching AWANI Tonight. PM denies pressure and threat from Umno top leadership. And police confirm sedition probe against Zahid. That's coming up. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob denied that he was threatened with expulsion from UMNO if he refused to bow to demands from its Supreme Council to call for a general election this year. The UMNO Vice President described the atmosphere at the Supreme Council meeting last Saturday as friendly.
Tak ada apa, kita bincang dalam meeting MT malam tu dalam keadaan yang suasana yang mesra dan sebagainya. Tidak ada isu, kadang-kadang orang luar melihat lain daripada apa yang berlaku di dalam. Jadi tidak ada apa-apa isu di dalam UMNO, tak ada apa-apa. Perbezaan pandangan adalah perkara biasa. Itu diraihkan.
States currently under PAS's administration will not dissolve their legislative assemblies before March next year, even if a general election is held earlier. Secretary General Datuk Seri Taqiyuddin Hassan said priority will be given to economic recovery.
The decision, which will affect Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu, were among key matters decided upon during the party's Central Committee meeting on Monday. These decisions will also be brought to PAS's 68th Annual General Assembly in Alor-Star, Kedah this weekend. According to Taqiyuddin, the party had also decided that it will not collaborate with Pakatan Harapan or any of its component parties ahead of GE15. He said the Islamic Party is open to forming alliances with Malay Muslim-based parties and will continue to focus on its Ummah unification concept, which he said is the most effective formula and is accepted by the majority of Malaysians.
Bukit Aman is investigating UMNO President Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi for allegedly insulting and slandering the judiciary while addressing his party's special briefing on Saturday. It says 12 police reports have been lodged over a video of his speech so far.
Over the weekend, Zahid held a special briefing to address concerns of UMNO delegates over the recent jailing of former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak. He had made remarks over the federal court's decision to uphold Najib's conviction and sentence in the SRC international case. Zahid also urged party members to push for national polls to be held as soon as possible and to call for a royal pardon for Najib. According to Barisan Nasional Deputy Chairman Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has given his commitment that GE15 will be held soon. While a date has not been set, Muhammad said the Prime Minister had indicated that GE15 would take place before 2022 ends.
Petronas reported a surge in second quarter profit, boosted by higher oil and gas prices. The national oil and gas firm posted profit of 23 billion ringgit in the 3 months ended June, versus 9.6 billion ringgit a year earlier due to recovery in global demand and elevated prices.
Revenue, meanwhile, rose 63% to 93.3 billion ringgit. According to President and Group CEO Datuk Tengku Muhammad Taufik, Petronas will double its dividend to the government this year to a total of 50 billion ringgit. The company was earlier expected to pay 25 billion ringgit, the same as last year, but he said the government made a request for a higher amount. Putrajaya is grappling with higher expenses for subsidies and cash aid payments to offset inflation. Government subsidies on consumer necessities are projected to hit an all-time high of 77.3 billion ringgit this year.
Investigations into the recent littoral combat ship LCS scandal revealed many procurement issues, one of which is the lack of oversight and abuse of the direct negotiation method. Sri Murniati Yusof from the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs Ideas explains how there is limited transparency in the current procurement method, leading many to exploit it.
Is the rampant use of direct negotiation is as we can see from the LCS case. So direct negotiation is allowed. Government can use direct negotiation in certain circumstances. For example, for urgency, for uniformity, for security reasons, they can use direct negotiation, meaning that you can directly negotiate with certain vendors. However, there are some rules to it, and I think what's limited now from the use from the current rules of direct negotiation, as we have done our research on, is the first one is this limited transparency. There's no obligation to the government to disclose direct negotiation after. The second one is, of course, I think in our paper we said that one of the weaknesses is the limited accountability on the part of the Minister of Finance. So right now, the Minister of Finance is the agency that approves direct negotiation. So procuring agencies, in the case of LCS, for example, is the Minister of Defense. So before they went into direct negotiation, they will submit requests to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance will approve. As of now, the obligation to provide all this, documentations and evidences on whether these contractors need to be approved should be coming from the procuring entities. However, the Minister of Finance doesn't have that kind of obligation. Say if they want to change their own decision.
The LCS scandal was a wake-up call for more serious measures to reform our procurement system. To start, Murniati said the government's My Procurement website should be fully utilized to improve transparency.
I think the immediate one is actually to require government agencies to really use the My Procurement. There's a platform, online platform called My Procurement, which actually hosts notices of contracts, of tenders, and even sebut harga, which is for the lower value of contract. So before government agencies call for contracts, they will put these notices on the My Procurement website, and then they will also put the information after they award the contract. So it's good, but I think it's not very widely used by government agencies. I think one of the things that actually missing from the current information is direct negotiation. In the past, I think if you have a chance to look into the website, the government put information on direct negotiation up until 2017, but there's no information from 2017 onwards.
She also calls for the Government Procurement Act to be enacted immediately to provide better accountability in the public procurement system.
It's actually, in IDS view, it's very important for us to have this government procurement legislations. So Government Procurement Act, I think there's a plan under the National Anti-Corruption Plan. So one of the program is actually to have the GPA by the end of 2019, not introducing it to Parliament or tabling it to Parliament by 2019. But I think until now we haven't seen any movement on this. So having government procurement legislations will institutionalize this transparency. We have now, but having a stronger legislation will help institutionalizing transparency in government procurement.
Tonight on Consider This, we speak to Dato' Zahid Ibrahim, former minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Legal Affairs and Judicial Reform under Tun Abdullah Badawi's administration. He was also on the legal team representing Najib Razak at the federal court for the final appeal against his SRC international conviction. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back.
Sehat ialah satu cara hidup. Cara untuk minum dengan baik, makan dengan baik, dengan bahan-bahan segar dan pelbagai cara yang sehat untuk memasaknya. Bakar, kukus, masak, campur, jus. Khas untuk semua amatur dan pakar. Gaya hidup sehat yang memasak di hujung minggu, menyihatkan badan dan jiwa. Hidup sehat setiap hari bersama Panasonic.
Panasonic.
Tyson goreng rangup sedap. Tyson goreng rangup sedap. Sedap. Tyson rasa sekali sudah pasti. Sedap, mudah, bermutu.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita.
Niaga AWANI dan Unified Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unified Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unified Business.
Welcome back. At least 23 people have been killed in some of the worst fighting for years in Iraq's capital, Baghdad. The violence began after powerful Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr announced his retirement from politics, triggering clashes between his supporters with security forces aligned with Iran. Sadr has since ordered his supporters to withdraw from outside parliament, where they have been protesting for weeks. Sadr's bloc won most seats in parliament last October, but he refused to negotiate with Iran-backed parties to form a government, resulting in a year of political instability. Much of the fighting concentrated around the city's Green Zone, a heavily fortified area that houses government buildings and foreign embassies. Iran has closed its borders with Iraq in response to the unrest, and Kuwait has urged its citizens to leave the country immediately. All of those killed were Sadr's supporters, while some 380 were injured. Early estimates put the damage from Pakistan's recent deadly floods at more than $10 billion, according to Planning Minister Ahsan Iqbal. He said it might take 5 years to rebuild and rehabilitate the country, warning of acute food shortages in the near term. Its climate minister Sherry Rahman meanwhile warned that warmer global temperatures will put Pakistan at the forefront of a global crisis.
Climate knows no borders, and its effects can be disproportionately felt, certainly across the global south, because we're closer to the equator. So when you see low pressure systems coming from the Bay of Bengal, they hit us before anyone else. So we're on the front line of a global crisis.
Unprecedented flash floods caused by historic monsoon rains have washed away roads, crops, infrastructure and bridges, killing at least 1,000 people in recent weeks and affecting more than 33 million, over 15% of the country's 220 million population. The recent floods were said to be worse than the 2010 floods that hit the country, which the UN had issued its largest ever disaster appeal. Before ending the show, here's a story about two giant pandas, Tuan Tuan and Yuan Yuan, marking their 18th birthdays in Taipei Zoo today. As part of celebrations, they were given a two-tiered dessert made of frozen fruits and sugar cane to enjoy in their closure. The pandas were given to Taiwan from China as part of an exchange program in 2008. Tuan Tuan, the male panda, was born on September 1st, 2004, while Yuan Yuan, the female, was born on August 31st, 2004. Together, their names produced the Chinese phrase Tuan Yuan, meaning reunion. That's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. My name is Saraya Mia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.
Ada banyak lagi rewards untuk bulan ni. Wow! Astro Rewards ada 3 ganjaran istimewa untuk semua pelanggan Astro. Penghantaran percuma dengan jimat poket Aeon.